What would really happen if the United States lost a war with Iran? Not just losing soldiers or losing battles, but losing in a way that changes everything about how the world works. Most people think a war with Iran would be quick. America has the best military on the planet, right? They'd go in, hit hard, and win.
Iran's leadership is in no better shape. Desperate and hiding, they've gone underground, cowering. That's what rats do.
But the people who study this stuff for a living say no. They say a war with Iran could turn into a nightmare that drains America dry, blows up the global economy, and hands power to China and Russia on a silver platter. Here is what would happen if the United States lost the war against Iran. First, the collapse of credibility. America's words stop meaning anything. Since the Cold War ended, the whole world has played by America's rules. Countries like Japan, Germany, and South Korea trusted that if trouble came, the US military would have their back. That belief kept everyone in line. But if Iran beats America, that belief shatters. Let me tell you who says this. According to Russian state TV host Vladimir Solovyov, one of the most famous media voices in Russia, this war already proves something huge. He went on his primetime show watched by millions and said, the United States can no longer guarantee anyone's security, even its own. Iran has written this fact in stone. Think about that. A major Russian figure telling his audience that Americans can't protect anyone anymore. That message spreads everywhere. Here's how the war starts. The US thinks it can kill Iran's leader and the whole country will fall apart. They tried. It doesn't work. Iran picks a new leader in hours and it hits back immediately. America's intelligence was completely wrong. Experts at the Atlantic Council, a top American think tank, confirmed that Iran's new leader is actually 56-year-old Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the old leader, and he's been trained by hardline anti-Western clerics his whole life. He's not backing down. Then something worse happens. American forces, using old information from 10 years ago, bomb a school in a city called Menab. More than 170 girls are killed. The whole world sees the pictures. The US government lies about it at first, then gets caught. British journalist Owen Jones, writing in The Guardian, one of the UK's biggest newspaper, puts it bluntly. He says that strike on the school, killing mostly little girls, is something even US investigators reportedly believe America was responsible for. He calls the whole war a grave crime. Right here, in that moment, America loses the moral high ground. Allies start thinking, if they can mess up this bad, can we really trust them to protect us? Countries that relied on America for decades start looking for new friends. They have no choice. The rise of the hedgehog world. And those new friends, China and Russia, are already waiting. If America loses, we don't just get a world with a new few powers. We get something scarier. Every country, seeing that America can't protect them anymore, curls up like a hedgehog to protect itself. They stop trusting anyone and start building their own defenses. And in that world, the only real protection is having your own nuclear bomb. China doesn't even have to fight America. They just have to wait. Bonnie Clashier, who works at the German Marshall Fund, a respected American research group, told reporters that China will use the conflict to position itself as the defender of the international order and portray the US as the destabilizer. While the US is stuck in a war in the Middle East, China quietly takes over trade and influence in the Gulf. And here is something interesting. Chinese state media, like the Global Times, is already talking about how Chinese tech companies are taking center stage while the West is distracted. Russia watches oil prices shoot up fast, $100 a barrel. That money helps them keep fighting their own war in Ukraine, while America has to pull weapons away from Europe to send them to the Middle East. A Russian political scientist named Vladimir Postov, who teaches at the University College London, says, this war will probably convince Russia's leader that he was right to invade Ukraine in the first place. Postov says Putin points to what's happening in Tehran and tells people, we would have been in their place if we hadn't acted. America's enemies don't lose in this war. They win big without firing a single bullet. The economic nightmare. But regular people feel the pain first. in their wallets. Everyone knows oil comes from the Gulf. About a quarter of the world's oil passes through one narrow water called the Strait of Hormuz. If that gets shut down, gas prices don't just go up, they explode. But here is what most news reporters won't tell you. It's not just about gas for your car, it's about food, a huge chunk of the world's fertilizer. The stuff that helps grow your fruits, vegetables, and grains also comes through that same waterway. If that stops, food prices go through the roof in just a few months. Poor countries face real hunger. It's about your phone and your car. The same route ships materials needed to make computer chips. No chips, no new phones, no new cars. Everything gets more expensive. Jet fuel prices jumped more than 70% in just 10 days during the early part of the conflict. Airlines can't handle that. They start going out of business. The travel becomes a nightmare for everyone. A British economics professor named Geo Michael, quoted in The Guardian, says the impact on the global economy is looking close to the worst case scenario. This isn't just a recession. It's the kind of economic pain that lasts for years and hits every single person. The military reality check. Now, let me tell you about something most important and people don't know about this war. Iran isn't trying to beat the US Navy in a big battle. They can't. Their strategy is smarter than that. Wali Nasser is a professor at Johns Hopkins University, one of America's top schools and one of the most famous experts on Iran. He says American leaders totally misread the situation. They underestimated how much pain Iran can absorb without falling apart. Here's what Iran actually did. Satellite images show they didn't waste their weapons on things that don't matter. They targeted specific radar systems. One radar they hit cost America and its allies $1.1 billion. Know what they hit it with? A drone that cost about $10,000. They also took out the radars that guide the THAAD missile defense systems in the United Arab Emirates. Those radars are part of a $3.6 billion defense network. Iran blinded it with one cheap strike. Now the whole region is operating half-blind. Defenses can't see attacks coming until it's too late. That's how you fight when you are the weaker side. You don't win by destroying their army. You win by making their fancy billion-dollar equipment useless. Now let's talk about the political meltdown of America. Inside the United States, things get ugly fast. Wars that go bad always causes problems at home. Think Vietnam. But this is worse. Regular people are already struggling with high prices. They are angry. Members of Congress start getting phone calls from their districts. Fake this or you're out of a job. Then the government starts changing its story. First, they said the war was about stopping nuclear weapons. Then it was about removing Iran's leaders. Then it was about forcing them to give up completely. Michael Rubin, a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, a major conservative think tank in Washington, says the military part of the campaign has been strong. But politically, this is becoming increasingly chaotic because the United States appears to have targeting strategies without a clearly defined goal. Another expert, Michael Singh, who used to work on Middle East affairs at the National Security Council under President George Washington Bush, points out something obvious but important. The other side gets a vote in how and when the conflict ends. Iran isn't just going to stop because America wants them to. Then a US top official goes on TV and says straight up, I don't know how the war ends. That clip plays over and over. Trust in the government tanks. People take to the streets. The country gets more divided than ever. Everyone is blaming everyone. What Iran gets out of this? Everything. Iran has spent 40 years telling its people that they are the ones brave enough to stand up to America. Now they have proof. Their plan was simpler. Just don't lose, just hold on. Make the war last so long and cost so much that America gives up first. Nate Swanson is a director at the Atlantic Council who used to advise the US government on Iran policy. He says from Iran's perspective, a slow, drawn-out war of attrition is probably exactly what they want. Iranian leaders believe their people are more willing to take casualties and absorb pain than Americans or Gulf Arabs are. And in their friends, groups in Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq, and Syria, all this see happen. They just watched the strongest military on earth walk away without winning. Now they are more confident than ever. Iran's power doesn't shrink, it grows. This leads to the biggest problem of all. America stops being scary. For decades, countries didn't mess with America because they knew they'd get destroyed. That's called deterrence. It kept the peace. But if Iran can fight the US to a standstill, what stops North Korea from doing something crazy? What stops China from moving on Taiwan? Even worse, look at the math. Iran fires cheap drones and missiles that cost almost nothing to make. America has to shoot them down with weapons that cost millions each. Adversaries watch this and realize they can bleed America dry out ever winning on a major battle. Just keep attacking, keep costing them money, and eventually America runs out. Jennifer Cavan, who directs military analysis at Washington think tank called Defense Priorities, warns that the long-term consequences could be significant. This kind of sustained conflict could affect the United States' ability to project powers for years, if not decades. The nuclear dominoes. And then comes the part that keeps experts up at night. If Iran fights off America without using nuclear weapons, every other country in the region watches and takes notes. Saudi Arabia thinks, we need those. Turkey thinks, we need those. Egypt thinks, we need those. All of them start racing to build their own bombs. The rules that have kept nuclear weapons under control of decades fall apart. Suddenly you have a dozen countries with nukes, all nervous, all pointing at each other. The chances of one actually getting used go away way up. And even if the shooting stops, the Middle East doesn't get better. Iran is hurting but still standing. They can't pay their bills or sell oil like before, but they keep their military in their anger. They become what some experts call a zombie state, still moving, still dangerous, but not really alive. They spend the next decades causing trouble, backing extremist groups and keeping the region unstable. Meanwhile, the war spread beyond Iran. Dubai, the shining city that represented a peaceful future for the Gulf, took hits. Buildings burned, money fled. The image of the Middle East as a safe place for business and tourism wiped out in weeks. A report from the Henry Jackson Society in Britain warns that if Iran's regime collapses completely, it could trigger civil war and a dangerous power vacuum. They say that's an outcome that must be avoided at all costs for the Iranian people. So the big picture is clear. The United States doesn't have to lose the war on the battlefield to lose the war completely. They just have to not win. They just have to get stuck, burn through money, watch their friends sleep, and see their economy take hit after hit. If that happens, the world that comes next isn't just different, it's dangerous. It's a world where every country is armed and nervous, where no one trusts anyone, where the American century ends, and a messy, scary new age begins. Or might be a beginning of something extremely peaceful and comfortable if America stops being a superpower